Namo Buddhaya. So, welcome to today's Sutta study. Today we're going to be learning about a sutta that's found in the Samyutta Nikaya of the Pali Canon. And this sutta is very important to us. It's very important for a person to learn this sutta because it really helps that person to have confidence in the fact that a person is able to be free from this long journey of samsara, and it really shows that person how to or the preliminary steps a person needs to develop in his life in order to escape from this samsara. Okay. Now, I hope that the main reason within your hearts for listening to the Dhamma or for learning the Dhamma is to be free from the samsara. Because if you're listening to the Dhamma, if you're practicing the Dhamma for some other goal, then really you're not making use of the value of this Dhamma, because this Dhamma has the ability for a person, if a person practices this Dhamma in the right way, this Dhamma has the ability to help a person to be free from all suffering. So when you're listening to the Dhamma, when you're trying to practice the Dhamma, then your goal should be, I'm doing this. At the bottom of your heart, your goal should be, I'm doing this to be free from this samsara, because the samsara is filled with suffering. Okay, so at the bottom of all our hearts, what we really want is to be free from all suffering, right? So that's the reason we do all of these things. That's the reason we collect merit into our lives. That's the reason that we practice the Dhamma and develop the Dhamma in our lives. So now if I ask you, okay, now thus far you have done certain things to practice your Dhamma path, you have done certain things to develop the Dhamma path. So if I ask you, are you confident that you can be at least, are you confident that you will reach Nibbana? I can ask like that. At this moment, if I ask you, are you confident that you're going to reach Nibbana? What would your answer be? So what would be the answer? Are you confident? Are you confident? Yes.
Actually, to reach Nibbana, I want to ask you to show the path, how to tread the path and walk on the path.
Yeah. So if someone asks us at this moment, right, whether are you confident that you will reach Nibbana, then most of us would have to say, we can't be confident, we are not 100% sure whether we will reach Nibbana. But today, I'm going to teach you this sutta where a person, which will show you the nature or the characteristics or factors within a person who is 100% confident that person will reach Nibbana. Okay, so that's why this is a really important sutta. Okay, the Supreme Buddha teaches if a person, the way for a person to be confident, the first or the preliminary step that a person can be confident that that person will reach Nibbana is if that person becomes a Sotapanna disciple. Okay, if a person reaches the level of a Sotapanna, or if he attains the fruit of Sotapanna, then that person is 100% confident that within a maximum, because the Supreme Buddha gives that that guarantee that if a person becomes a Sotapanna disciple, that person will reach Nibbana within a maximum of 7 lives. Okay, so the only person who can 100% guarantee that that person will reach Nibbana is only a Sotapanna disciple. Okay, that is why there's an entire Samyutta, there's an entire section in the Samyutta Nikaya called Sotapatti Samyutta, which you can learn, read and learn. It shows characteristics of Sotapanna disciples. Okay, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, to show the benefit of becoming a Sotapanna disciple at one point, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, took 7 sesame seeds onto the Supreme Buddha's hand. Okay, now are sesame seeds big or small? Okay, so sesame seeds are very, very small, right? So the Supreme Buddha taught, oh bhikkhus, what is more? The amount of sesame seeds on my hand, or the amount of sesame seeds on my hand, or this Mount Himalaya. Okay, so the bhikkhus answered, Venerable Sir, the amount of sesame seed, the size of the sesame seeds on your hand is very, very little. It's very minute compared to the Mount Himalaya. Mount Himalaya is a huge mountain, which you can't even compare sesame seed to. You cannot compare the size of a sesame seed to Mount Himalaya. Right? So the bhikkhus replied, the size of the 7 sesame seeds on your hand is much smaller and minute compared to Mount Himalayas. And at that time, our great teacher, Supreme Buddha, explained, oh bhikkhus, if a person becomes a Sotapanna disciple, if a person becomes a stream entrant, Sotapanna means, that's the Pali word. The English translation is stream entrant. If a person becomes a stream entrant, then the amount of suffering that person abandoned or eradicated is like the size of the Mount Himalayas. The amount of suffering that that person will have to face is like the 7 sesame seeds on the hand. Why is there 7? Because that person will only be reborn in a maximum of 7 lives. So within that 7 lives, we will only have to suffer very, very little. While the amount of suffering that he abandoned is like that of the Mount Himalayas. Okay. And also in one instant, the Supreme Buddha, to show how important it is to become a Sotapanna disciple, the Supreme Buddha asks the bhikkhus there, bhikkhus, suppose someone comes and tells you, you're going to be hit with a spike, okay, so like a very sharp spike. You're going to be pierced with a sharp spike 100 times in the morning, 100 times in the afternoon, and 100 times at night. Okay, so how many hits of spikes are you going to be hit with for the entire day? 300. So you're going to be hit with 300 shots of spikes per day. Okay, and suppose you are to live 100 years. So experiencing this pain, you will have to live for 100 years. Okay. However, that person comes and tells you, at the end of the 100 years, I guarantee you that you will become a Sotapanna disciple. Just remember the teachers. If someone gives you that guarantee that after being hit with 300 spikes a day for 100 years, and if he gives you the guarantee that you will be a Sotapanna disciple, then just remember the teachers, you should take that offer. You should take that offer. Why? Because if you don't become a Sotapanna disciple, the amount of suffering you will have to face in this long journey of birth and death is much greater. Now, do you see? So to show how much suffering a person can abandon by simply becoming a Sotapanna, so we would taught that simile. Okay, so if a person becomes a Sotapanna disciple, then that is the first level of understanding or realization, or the first fruit. The first fruit is being Sotapanna. The second fruit is becoming Sakadagami, which is once returner. Once returner means you only come back to this world of sensual pleasures, which is the human world and the divine world, only once, and then afterwards you reach Nibbana. Okay, the third fruit is becoming Anagami. Anagami means never returner. A never returner would never come back to this world of sensual pleasures. He's only reborn in the world of Brahmas, and he reaches Nibbana there. And the fourth fruit is Arahantship. If you become an Arahant, of course, you are never reborn again. You reach Parinibbana, and you reach Parinibbana, and you become free from all suffering. Okay, so if a person becomes a Sotapanna disciple, then that is the guarantee. Only such a person can be confident at the minimal level, that is, that he can be free from this samsara. Okay, so that is why we should all try at least our goal, because that is the closest goal for us. If we think we should become an arahant, it's very difficult. Okay, it's very difficult to become an anagami. It's very difficult to become a sakadagami. But at least if we try to attain the first level, the first fruit, then at least it's reachable. If not in this life, at least it's reachable in a future life. If we collect merit, if we practice the Dhamma with the intention of reaching Nibbana. Okay, so this sutta will really show you what kind of characteristics are found in a Sotapanna disciple. Okay, the name of this sutta is called Panchabhayavera Sutta, and it's found in the Samyutta Nikaya, the second book, in the Nidana Vagga. Okay, so in this sutta, the Supreme Buddha teaches. So during this time, the Supreme Buddha was living in Savatthi, and the Supreme Buddha taught the sutta to householder Anathapindika. Now, householder Anathapindika was indeed a Sotapanna disciple. So this sutta was taught to a Sotapanna disciple. Okay, so householder Anathapindika approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, and sat down to one side. And the Blessed One said to him, Householder, when five fearful animosities have subsided in a noble disciple, and he possesses the four factors of stream entry, and he has clearly seen and thoroughly penetrated with wisdom the noble method. If he wishes, he could by himself declare of himself thus. Okay, so if a person has these three things, the first one is if he is free from fear and hatred. Okay, that's called Bhayabhera. It's called Bhayavera. Okay, so if he's free from fear and hatred, okay, and if he possesses the four factors of stream entry, and if he has clearly understood the noble method, now these three will be described as we go on. If a person has these three things, then he can be sure of himself and he can declare this. He can say, I am one finished with hell. That means I will never be reborn in hell. Now, can you ever say this? Can you say I will never be reborn in hell? Can you say I will never be reborn in the animal world? No. Can you say I will never be reborn in the ghost world? No. Can you say I'll never be reborn in the plane of misery? No. Okay, but that person who has these three things, which are um, a person who has become free from fear and hatred, and a person who has the four factors of stream entry, and a person who has thoroughly understood and penetrated with wisdom the noble method, that person can declare himself as being, I am one who will never be reborn in hell. I'm someone who will never be reborn in the animal world. And I'm someone who will never be reborn in the ghost world. And I'm someone who will never be reborn in a plane of misery. I'll never be reborn in a bad world. And I'm someone who will never be reborn in a bad destination. I'm a stream mentor who's no longer bound to a bad world. I will definitely, in my future, attain Nibbana and reach enlightenment. Okay, so if a person has these three things in his life, he can declare himself as someone who will never be reborn in a bad world, as someone who will definitely reach Nibbana in his future. Okay, so after this was taught to household Anathapindika, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, goes on to explain what these things are. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha teaches, what are the five fears and hatred that he has become free from? Okay, it's called Bhayavera. Bhaya means fear, and Vaira means hatred. Okay, so a Sotapanna disciple is free from these fears and hatred. And so remember that it is what they are, that is, householder, one who destroys life, and one who destroys life engenders on account of such behavior fear and hatred pertaining to the present life and fear and hatred pertaining to the future life. That is, someone who destroys life, that means someone who kills living beings. So he may be killing animals, he may be killing humans. Okay. Someone who kills living beings on account, because he kills, he experiences fear and he experiences hatred. Right? Now, suppose someone kills a human, right? So can he live without fear? He's always scared. He's always scared whether, will I be caught, right? Will I be imprisoned? He's always scared. Okay. And at the same time, he experiences hatred because the person who he is killing, that person is angry with the person is with that person is angry with the killer. That person feels hatred towards the killer. So in this very life, that person is subject to hatred, right? And that is in this life. In future lives also, he will have to face fear and hatred because the Supreme Buddha teaches, as a result of killing, you will be reborn in the hell world. So the hell world is filled with suffering. So he has that fear of suffering in his next life. Okay? And he has the fear of being hurt in his next life. He has the fear of having to face lots of sorrow in his next life. Okay? And not only that, he experiences mental pain and displeasure. Okay, so someone who kills, he is not a happy person. Okay, in this life also, he is living with a lot of fear, he's living with a lot of pain, he's living with a lot of stress in his life. And at the same time, in his next life, he will also experience the same, because remember the teachers, even, okay, suppose you kill a living being, as a result of killing, you're reborn in the hell world, or in a bad world in your next life. And even if you, after suffering in those bad worlds for a long time, even if you return back to the human world, you cannot live a happy life. The Supreme Buddha teaches, as a result of killing, even if you get human life, your lifespan is going to be short. So not only you, those around you are also going to suffer a lot because of you. Okay, so in this life, either you be the subject of somebody else's murdering, right? Or you'll be subject to accidents, you'll be subject to something, and you will die. So a person kills in this way faces a lot of suffering and faces a lot of fear and hatred. However, a person who does not destroy living beings is free from this fear and hatred and all these suffering. Okay, so that is the first fear and hatred that he is free from. So because a Sotapanna disciple is someone who does not kill living beings. So as a result, that person is free from those fear and hatred in this very life, and as well as his next life. Then the Supreme Buddha teaches the second fear, the second fearful animosity that he is free from is, the Supreme Buddha teaches, one who takes what is not given, that is, one who steals. A person who steals experiences fear and hatred in this very life, right? Once you steal somebody else's money, once you steal something that belongs to another, you're always scared. Will I get caught? Okay, will he find out that I did this, right? Even if someone says something that goes along with what you have done, you have doubts. Does he know what I did? So he's always living with fear. He's always living with he's always scared. And not only that, he experiences hatred. Why? Because if you steal something that belongs to another person, that person who you stole it from, he feels anger and hatred towards the person who did that to you. So through that, he experiences hatred in this very life. And also in his next life, also he experiences the same. He cannot live a very peaceful life after stealing things that belong to others. In his next life, he will be reborn in the hell world, in the ghost world, in the animal world, where he will have to suffer a lot. He will be the subject of many torture and suffering in those worlds. Okay. That's the second one. Okay, however, if a person does not steal, he does not have this fear, he does not have any hatred towards him, and therefore he can live happily. He does not have any mental displeasures, or he does not have any mental pain. He can live peacefully. So Sotapanna disciple is someone who never ever steals anything that does not belong to him. Okay, he he even for somebody else he doesn't steal. That's how it's explained in the precepts, that you don't steal neither for yourself or for somebody else. Because there are some people, right? I can, for example, suppose you're very, very poor. You're very poor, and there's nothing to eat at home, and there are children, and you need to feed them. Okay? So thinking of your children, because you need to feed them, you go and steal something. So that is stealing for another person. Okay? You're not stealing for yourself, but you're stealing for somebody else. But still, that karma is the same. A Sotapanna disciple would never do that. Okay, if he would never steal to find food for himself. Rather, he just endure that pain. Therefore, he does not have a Sotapanna disciple because he's free from stealing. He does not endure pain nor hatred in this life. He's free from it. And also he does not experience such pain in his next life. Right? He's free from that, and he does not experience any mental distresses or displeasures in this life, in this very life, or in this next life. So he's living a very peaceful and happy life. That is the second fear. The third fear and hatred that he's free from is, Supreme Buddha teaches, householder, one who engages in sexual misconduct on account of engaging in sexual misconduct, that person experiences fear and hatred in this life as well as the next life. Okay, now, right? So if you cheat on your wife, if you cheat on your husband, if you cheat on your spouse, you're doing so. You're doing so. When you're doing so, you know you're scared inside. Will they find out about this affair, right? Will they find out about what I'm doing? Will my parents, will my family find out? Will my friends find out? So you always do everything so secretly, and you hide everything. You hide all the signs of you being found. So even when you're living at home, you're always scared. You always make sure that you don't keep anything that would, show or give a sign of what you're doing. Even if you get a call, you're scared, right? So in this very life, someone who engages in sexual misconduct, someone who's cheating on one's spouse, is always scared. He's living with fear in this life, and also he experiences hatred, right? There are so many people in this world who curse at men and women who break their relationships. Why? Because they feel extreme anger. They feel extreme hatred towards that person who has come in between their relationship. All right. So therefore, in this very life, that person experiences hatred. Okay. And also, if a person engages in sexual misconduct in this life, his afterlife is not going to be a good one. If a person has done that misconduct in his next life, he will definitely be reborn in a bad world. He will definitely have to face the consequences of his actions. And it's not going to be filled with happiness. It's going to be filled with sorrow. Okay? And the Surimada teaches, if a person engages in sexual misconduct, then after suffering in after suffering in the bad worlds for a long time, if you come back to this human world, then as a result of engaging in sexual misconduct, you get a lot of enemies. Okay, so if you're someone who has a lot of enemies wherever you go, in school you had enemies, at your workplace you have enemies, in your family you have enemies, then chances are it's because you have engaged in sexual, it could be it could be a karma that you're experiencing because of engaging in sexual misconduct. Okay, you have a lot of enemies as a result, because what you did in your previous life is you acted like an enemy to that person when you cheated on with that person's spouse. So therefore, in this life, you get a lot of enemies. So now when you have to face this, you can't run away from it. People hate you, people don't like you, people do things to make you look bad, right? So when when you have to face this, you can't run away from it and hide. Why? Because it is, because remember the teachers, karma is not something that you can hide in a mountain or go overseas and be free from. It's something that will come and you will have to face the consequences of it. However, if someone does not engage in sexual misconduct, that person does not have this fear. That person does not have this hatred. He can live a very happy life because he has trust in his relationships. His family trusts him, right? His children trusts him, and there's so much peace within, and he can live happily. So Sotapanna disciple has this happiness. He's free from that hatred and fear in this life as well as the next life. And he's free from mental displeasures and he's free from mental distresses. That's the third one. And the fourth one is, remember the teacher's householder, one who lies. Okay, one who lies, on account of lying, he has to face fear and hatred in this very life. Okay, not only that, he has to face fear and hatred in his next life. Okay, and because of lying, he has to face a lot of mental stresses in his life and mental displeasures because in his conscience he knows he lied and cheated another person and fooled another person, right? Sometimes in this very in the human world, when people find out that somebody has lied to them, people curse, people start to feel extreme anger and hatred towards that person who lied to them, because when you lie, what you're really doing is you're destroying a person's trust, because trust is something that's very difficult to gain between two people. So once you break that trust, what you have done is very serious. In fact, just remember the teachers, Viswasa Paramanyati, that means this trustworthiness, trust between two people is like a relative. It's so supportive. When you have trust between people, it's so supportive and you're very confident and you can live very happily, because when you're living with relatives, also to say you're living, in harmony and peacefully. So trust is like that. You can go anywhere, you can do anything because you have that trust, right? Even in a relationship between a wife and husband, if you have trust within, then that husband can go anywhere because he knows that, because the wife knows that he will never cheat on her or lie to her, because the trust is there. And same with the wife. So it's very stress-free. It's very peaceful for that person. But if a person lies and breaks the trust, then that person feels extreme anger and hatred towards that person who lied to them. So therefore, in this very life, that person experiences hatred and fear, because when you lie to someone, you're always scared. Will she find out? Will he find out? It's always roaming in your mind. It's always echoing in your mind. Even if somebody says something, then you think, oh, maybe she knows. So that fear and that doubt is always there in your mind. However, the Supreme Buddha teaches, someone who does not lie does not have this fear. He is free from this fear and hatred. Okay? And the Supreme Buddha teaches, as a result of lying in your next life, you will be reborn in a bad world, and after suffering a lot in the next world, even if you come back to the human world after a long time as a result of lying, this is with the teachers, you never as a result of lying, others accuse you wrongly. You have to face wrong accusations. Okay, so if you're someone who's always accused of something that you have never done, there are people in this world like that. No matter where you go, at school, at workplace, you're accused of things that you never even thought of doing. Always you get false accusations. Why? Because remember the teacher, that is a result of lying in your previous lives. Okay? So through that you experience a lot of mental distress. Okay? So that mental distress is not in this life, it's also going to come with you for many lives to come. However, a Sotapanna disciple is free from this. He is free from this hatred, he is free from this fear, he is free from all of these mental displeasures. And the fifth one is the fifth hate, fearful animosity that he's free from is Supreme Buddha teaches if a person indulges in wine, liquor, and intoxicants that are basis for negligence, then account of such behavior, he experiences fear and hatred. Okay? In this present life as well as in the next life. Okay, when some people drink, some people when they get drunk and they come home, they hit, they beat, they physically abuse, they mentally abuse family members. And so when in such environments, those family members, could be wife, could be children, because of the stress that they're experiencing, they feel so much hatred towards that person who's drunk and is abusing them. So therefore, in this very life, they experience hatred. Okay. And your next life, you will have to experience a lot of suffering. This agreement the teaches as a result of drinking and taking intoxicating drugs in your next life, you will be reborn in a bad destination, either the hell world or the animal world or the ghost world, and after suffering in those worlds for a long time, if you come back to this human world, then still that karma is still there, and you will be reborn. Even if you come back to the human world, you will be reborn as a mentally disabled person, or someone who's not able to understand things easily, someone someone who is unwise. Okay, so I'm sure you have seen people who are mentally disabled. I'm sure you have seen people who don't have the capacity to understand even a small thing, right? Or there are people who can't bear anything. Something little is enough for their life to fall apart completely. And some people go insane. Some people go crazy, some people go mad when they're in their teenage years. Why? All of those are results of taking intoxicants in their previous life. So through that, not just yourself, but those around you also have to face a lot of suffering. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha teaches how a Sotapanna disciple does not have to is free from this fear and hatred, and is free from all of these mental stresses and displeasures. So that is the first factor of a Sotapanna disciple, that is, he is free from these 5 types of fear and hatred in his life. He is a very happy, he is a very peaceful person. Okay, that's the first factor. Then the second factor is the Supreme Buddha teaches the second factor is he possesses the 4 factors of stream entry. So in order to declare that I am free from hell, in order to declare I'm free from the ghost world, in order to declare that I'm free from the animal world, I'm free from ever being reborn in a bad world. I'm free from ever falling into a bad destination. For sure, I'm guaranteed that I will reach Nibbana. I will become enlightened. In order to declare like that, okay, you need the first that we discussed, which is being free from those five fears and animosities. And the second is having the four factors of a stream entrant. Okay, so let's learn what those four factors of a stream entrant are. Okay, the Supreme Buddha teaches, what are the four factors of stream entry that he possesses? The first one is the Supreme Buddha teaches, here, household. So now again, this is being taught to a Sotapanna disciple. So imagine how happy this household Anatha Pindika would have felt when he was listening to this, because all of these factors that the Supreme Buddha is describing are things that he has. So imagine how happy he must have been when he was listening to this sutta, right? So the Supreme Buddha teaches he has these four factors of stream entry, and that is, here, householder, the noble disciple possesses unshakable confidence in the Buddha. What's the first what's the first factor of stream entry? Unshakable confidence in the Buddha. Okay? So through his own realization, he understands that the Supreme Buddha is an Arahant. That means the Supreme Buddha is free from all defilements. There is absolutely nothing impure in the Supreme Buddha's mind. The Supreme Buddha is completely free from all desire, hatred, and delusion. And through himself, he understands and realizes that the Supreme Buddha is Samma Sambuddha. The Supreme Buddha is perfectly enlightened. That means the Supreme Buddha attained enlightenment without the help of a teacher through his own wisdom. So he has a confidence in the Supreme Buddha. And then he knows that through himself he understands and realizes that the Supreme Buddha is Vijjacharana Sampanno. The Supreme Buddha has accomplished in true knowledge and conduct. The Supreme Buddha has many types of knowledge. The Supreme Buddha has the ability to see past lives. The Supreme Buddha has the ability to read people's minds. The Supreme Buddha has the ability to tell when someone dies where he will be reborn. The Supreme Buddha has divine powers, divine psychic powers, and the Supreme Buddha lived his life according to his knowledge. So it's an understanding and realization that this disciple has. It's not something that you make him believe forcefully, but rather it's something that he understands through himself by knowing the Supreme Buddha. Okay. And then he knows that the Supreme Buddha is Sugato. Sugato means the Supreme Buddha found the path to Nibbana and developed the path to Nibbana and reached Nibbana. He's Sugato. Okay? Lokavidu, the Supreme Buddha, is the knower of all worlds. The Supreme Buddha knows everything, every single thing there is to know about all worlds. The Supreme Buddha knows very clearly. So for us, we only see this world we see, this human world. We don't know anything beyond it. But the Supreme Buddha knows everything about this entire universe. There is nothing the Supreme Buddha does not know. It's said that it's like, getting a small fruit on your finger. For example, suppose you take a grape onto your finger and then you roll it around. When you roll it around, you see everything in that grape, right? In the same way, the Supreme Buddha knows everything in this entire universe, in this world. The Supreme Buddha is Lokavidu. So it's a confidence he has within himself. A Sotapanna disciple knows this through his own understanding. Why? Because he knows about the Buddha. He knows about the qualities of the Supreme Buddha. Okay. And the next one is he knows that the Supreme Buddha is Anuttara Purisadhamma Sarati. The Supreme Buddha is the unsurpassed tamer of persons to be tamed. The Supreme Buddha had the ability to tame murderers. The Supreme Buddha tamed murderers so that they became arahants. That's how powerful the Supreme Buddha was. The Supreme Buddha was able to tame Brahmas who were so egoistic. Okay? The Supreme Buddha was able to tame people using his ability to teach the Dhamma, using his ability of showing psychic powers, and he was able to tame people by reading people's minds. So he was the Supreme. He knows, the Sotapan disciple knows that the Supreme Buddha is the supreme tamer of people, and they are people to be tamed, persons to be tamed. And he knows that the Supreme Buddha is Sattva Deva Manusanam, that the Supreme Buddha is not just the teacher to humans, but also is the teacher to gods. So the Supreme Buddha helped many human beings to attain Nibbana, as well as many thousands of millions of devas to attain Nibbana. In fact, when our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, did his first Dhamma talk, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, millions of gods attained Nibbana, understood the Dhamma, and attained fruits and paths. Right? So when only one human being in the human world, Venerable Kondanya, understood and realized the Dhamma and became a Sotapanna disciple, listening to that same Dhamma, thousands of gods realized the Dhamma. Some attained Nibbana, some attained other fruits and parts of the dispensation. Right? So our great teacher is the only teacher who is the teacher to both gods and humans. And he knows that the Supreme Buddha is Buddho. Buddho means the Supreme Buddha. After realizing Nibbana, he didn't keep it for himself. Right? He could have simply found the path and reached Nibbana, and he could have been the only person to be free from this samsara. Right? But he didn't keep it for himself. The Supreme Buddha taught others this path. The path that he discovered, so that others can also develop this Dhamma path and reach Nibbana. That is a great quality of our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha. Because if the Supreme Buddha didn't teach the Dhamma, we wouldn't be here today listening to Dhamma. We wouldn't be here today teaching the Dhamma, and you would not be here today listening to the Dhamma, because there would be nothing to be said. Right? So it's because of the Supreme Buddha's great compassion that the Supreme Buddha wanted all beings in this world to find the path to Nibbana and reach Nibbana and be free from this long journey of birth and death. Okay? And the Sotapan disciple knows that the Supreme Buddha is Bhagava. Bhagava means the Supreme Buddha is the most blessed person in this world to hold these extremely great qualities. Okay, so how does he know this? He knows this through understanding himself, through his own realization. So when once a person, either person gets to associate with the Buddha, if the Supreme Buddha was alive, then that person has the opportunity to associate with the Buddha, and through to listening to the Dhamma, he is able to understand that the Supreme Buddha possesses these great qualities, and he has unshakable confidence in the Buddha about the Supreme Buddha's qualities. So nowadays, we don't have the Supreme Buddha to associate with. Okay, so the only way for us to find out about these qualities, about the meaning of these qualities, is through listening to the Dhamma. When we are listening to the Dhamma, in each of the Dhamma talks that we listen to, at least one of these qualities are prominent. Either the Supreme Buddha's Anuttara Purisadhamma Sarati quality, or the Supreme Buddha's knowledge about the world, right? Or all of these qualities. So the only way for us to gain confidence in the Supreme Buddha is by listening to the Dhamma very carefully and try to understand the Dhamma. And through that understanding only will we be able to gain confidence in the Buddha. Okay, without confidence in the Buddha, you cannot gain confidence in the Dhamma or the Sangha. Okay. So a Sotapanna disciple, the first factor of stream entry is having unshakable confidence in the Buddha. And the second quality is having unshakable confidence in the Dhamma. That means he in his heart, he is 100% sure that this Dhamma is the only teaching that teaches the path to Nibbana. That there is absolutely nothing else in this world that teaches this reality, that teaches this truth. That this Dhamma is Swakhato, it is well proclaimed by the Buddha. Sandiptiko, this Dhamma can be experienced, the results of this Dhamma can be experienced here in this very life. Sandiptiko, Akaliko, this Dhamma is timeless. The Supreme Buddha's teaching is not just for the present. If a person practices his Dhamma in the past, if a person attain Nibbana, it's because he practiced this Dhamma in the past. If a person is to attain Nibbana in the future, it's because that person would practice this Dhamma in the future. If a person is to attain Nibbana or fruits and parts of the dispensation in the present life, then it's from practicing this Dhamma. Okay, it's akaliku, it's timeless. There's no certain time for this Dhamma. In the past, in the present, in the future, if a person practices the Dhamma, then he can yield results. He's confident. The Tapan disciple is 100% confident about this truth. Ehipasiko openaiko. This Dhamma is open to all. There's no hidden puzzles in this Dhamma. There's no hidden words in this Dhamma. The Supreme Buddha completely open everything. There's nothing hidden in this Dhamma. Everything is taught by the Supreme Buddha without keeping anything to himself. Okay, so in fact, the Supreme Buddha the Supreme Buddha states this himself. If I remember correctly, it was towards the end of the Supreme Buddha's life when Venerable Ananda asked the Supreme Buddha for further advice. And at that moment, the Supreme Buddha teaches Ananda, what are you expecting? What more are you expecting of me? I have said everything that you need to know. That I have taught you everything that I have discovered. I have not hidden anything. So what more are you asking from me? So the Supreme Buddha himself shows that the Supreme Buddha has completely openly expressed and revealed this Dhamma without hiding anything. It's another quality of this Dhamma. Open aiko. And this Dhamma is for you to understand through yourself, according to your wisdom. Pachattam veditambo vinyuhiti. According to different people's wisdom, that person can realize the Dhamma independence on the level of wisdom. Okay? So a Sotapanna disciple has complete confidence in this Dhamma, that this Dhamma is something that helps a person to completely extinguish the burning flames of desire, hatred, and delusion. This Dhamma is like water that quenches the thirst of defilements. And this Dhamma is something that definitely leads to Nibbana. He has 100% confidence. Okay, it's not something that he blindly believes. It's something he knows through his own realizations. Through his own realization. Okay, that's the second factor of stream entry. And the third factor of stream entry is he has unshakable confidence in the Sangha. And how does he have confidence in the Sangha? He knows that the Sangha, the Sangha is a group of people. Out of all groups in this world, there are many groups in this world. There are many associations in this world. Okay, but among all of those groups and associations, the Supreme Buddha's disciples are the greatest. Why? Because they're a group of people who are trying to abandon desire, hatred, and delusion. All other groups, what they're doing leads to either more desire, or leads to more hatred, or it leads to more delusion. They're being fooled. They don't know reality. But the Blessed One's disciples are a group of people known as Supatipanna. Supatipanna means they are practicing the path that leads to being free from desire, hatred, and delusion. They are Ujjupatipanna. Ujjupatipanna means the Supreme Buddha's disciples are practicing the straight path to Nibbana, which is called the Noble Eightfold Path. They are in the path. They are in the path to Nibbana. So that Sotapanna disciple has confidence in the Sangha, that the Sangha that I have taken refuge is of this quality. Nyayapatipanno, the Sangha that I have taken refuge in, they are truly, directly practicing the path to true realization. He has confidence in the Sangha. And Samichipatipanno means he knows that the Sangha that he has taken refuge in, they also, not only do they practice the Dhamma, but they also teach the Dhamma, so that we can also develop the Dhamma path. That is also a great quality, right? During Supreme Buddha's time, many disciples went all around India and taught the Dhamma to others, and it's because of that this Dhamma spread. Okay, the reason that we here in Sri Lanka we have Dhamma is because Arhan Mahinda, Mahinda's Samichi Paripanna quality. Arhan Mahinda came to Sri Lanka and taught the Dhamma to us long time ago. And the reason that we are discussing the Pure Dhamma today is because in Sri Lanka, my venerable teacher, he taught the Dhamma and emphasized the importance of practicing the Dhamma and taught the pure teachings of the Buddha. That is also my venerable teacher Swami Chipatpanna quality. That is the reason that the Buddha Sasana is shining in this world today. So it's a great quality that's found in the Sangha. So he has great confidence and pleasant mind about this quality. And because of this, the Mahasangha is worthy of offerings, is worthy of being made offerings even from far away. They are worthy of being offered when they come to your house as guests. Ahuneyo, Pahuneyo, Dakhineyo, they are worthy of being offered things to collect merit. Anuttaram Punyaketna Lokasya. The Supreme Buddha Sangha is like a field of merit to the world. So he has confidence in the Mahasangha, which is unshakable. Nobody can change that confidence that he has about the Buddha Dhamma and the Sangha. Okay, and the fourth one is he possesses virtue that's dear to the noble ones, and his virtue, that means his precepts, are unbroken. Okay, it's untorn. It's unblemished. It's not blemished. It's unmottled. It's freeing. It's praised by the wise, and it's not mixed with any delusions. And it leads to concentration. So what that means is Sotapanna disciple protects the 5 precepts, or whatever the precepts he has observed, he protects the precepts like his life. He does not break it. Unblemished means, for some people, if you observe the 5 precepts, you protect 4 precepts, but you can't protect 1 precept. So that means your precepts are blemished. There are holes in it. But a Sotapanna disciple, he protects all precepts without breaking it ever. Okay, and his precepts helps him to develop concentration, samadhi. And his precepts are based on understanding of the Four Noble Truths, and therefore he never gets misguided. And his precepts are praised by the wise. Okay, so a Sotapan disciple has perfect virtue. So the Supreme Buddha teaches if a person has these four factors of a stream mentioned, then that's another thing a person needs in his life in order to declare himself free from hell, free from animal world, free from ghost world, free from ever being reborn in the planes of misery. And that's you need these four factors of stream entry in order to have assurance that you will definitely reach nibbana within a maximum of 7 lives. Okay, so the next part is a little bit more complicated. So because of that, we will learn it in our next session. Okay, so we will stop for today here. So we discussed out of the three factors a person needs in order to declare himself free from being ever reborn in a bad world. We discussed the first two, which is being free from the five fear and animosities, and the second one is possessing the four factors of stream entry. Okay, so may all of us be blessed to develop these great qualities within our life and become stream entrants who are destined to enlightenment, and may all of us be able to reach Nibbana and escape from all suffering in this Gautam Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.